One, go. Welcome to the second part of our exciting session. Anyway, so where were we? Okay, what we have done, we integrated a new Courier, Mars Direct. We went through the config and how the configs work, how they switch, and how it actually gets into activated config state. The next thing is, let's have a look at the properties. So this is the extended property mapping thing. Okay, so in our integration code, we have got a method called extended property mapping. All it is just returns a class that defines what sort of properties we're expecting to be mapped. Each property has got a type of order or an item. Yeah. I have implemented the order extended property now as well. Yay! Anyway, so basically, we just create an item list of extended property mappings and just return it to the user. So let's just have a look that it gets called. And when we hit property, this endpoint will get called, and effectively it just tells us what extended property name we want limericks to send back to us when we're generating the label. For the user interface purposes, we say what its title and what the description is, and whether it's an order extended property or whether it's an item extended property. And that's it. Okay. So then the customer would go and map it to either extended property of an item or extended property of an order. For example, in my case, I'm going to say that the safe place node 1 would be taken from a safe place extended property of an order. And we're just going to see how it works when we actually print the model. Okay. So safe, as you can see, we don't need to handle any saving of either services or extended property mappings or anything like that on the Courier integration side of things. Everything is handled on Linux.net side of things. Okay, all we need to do is we just need to say, this is the extended properties I expect you to map and expect them back. Obviously, if the customer hasn't specified the safe place on the order itself, and if it's a required field for your integration, then you need to throw an error saying you have to have an extended property in each order that says safe place. Stuff like that, or just ignore it altogether, or set a default value. It's entirely to you how you want to handle those, missing extended properties. So the next thing is services, and again we have a method in our shipping integration module called user available services. Okay, so let's hit that, and again our request will only contain pretty much just authorization token, nothing else. This is unique identifier for each integration in our system. Again, we just load up this config, and because this config has been completed, so we've got the customer address and all this kind of stuff. If you're working with Courier API, you would save the API username and password in this config, and you will be able to send a request to the Courier API to get the available services for this customer and return them back to the user, or to the user interface and things like that. Okay. In my case, I have them statically defined, so they just defined in a class that just returns a list. So this is the services that I will return. So very important thing to know. Obviously, service code could be anything, name could be anything, group is whether some grouping for the Courier code. Tag is, again, you can use it sometimes, it's just something that you can tag this service with. So sometimes the same Courier service can have exactly the same code, but it will have a different variations of it. For example, one is, let's say, with extended cover or morning delivery, for example, whether this Courier guarantees that this will be delivered by 12 o'clock. It's exactly the same service, but it's just like an enhancement code. You can handle this in service tag, or if you've got many different properties that we need to kind of remember, or if this service has got properties, like for example, what comes out on the label, that you also need to tell the customer those properties. A good example would be Amazon shipping integration, right? Every single service has got with delivery signature or without delivery signature. Okay, and we put this in the property of each service. It's a static property, it never changes. But when we print a label, we take this property and we mark this consignment with signature delivery, with signature or without it, basically. Okay, so we can specify that in the property. The very important thing is this, service unique ID. So this is a unique identifier for each service in the system. That has to be unique for this specific courier service, okay? And once it's defined, it can never change because Linux will remember this ID, okay? And every time it prints a consignment, it will send this ID to the generate shipping label call. It's not going to send the code, it's not going to send anything else, it will send this ID. So for example, if you're retrieving service list, available service list from the API, and it returns just the code and just the name of the service and nothing else, okay? You need to generate one of those yourself, then assign each code of the service to a specific ID, and you need to return to Linux all the services with those unique unique identifiers. Right? You can't generate them on the fly every time you return a service because they will change all the time. Okay? They also have to be unique, so you can't just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, convert it into unique identifier because they will clash with other courier services. For example, if you created 2 integrations and you repeated those service IDs, everything is going to go to hell in Linux or that. It's not everything is going to go to hell, it's just not going to print labels for you, or it will print labels for different services. Okay? So this is important to keep this unique, and it's got to be statically bound to a specific service all the time. It can never change. Got it? Or not you looking confused with what's up?
What would happen if you delete the integration and we edit it?
That's fine.
The system remembers it anyway.
No, it doesn't remember it.
For that service and a integration.
It will unassign all the Linux shipping services from this integration, and it can be assigned to anything else. It's just basically when Linux.net has got one service assigned, then it finds assigned service and a courier integration for the assigned shipping service, then extracts its ID from internal configuration, and it will send this ID to your courier integration. Yeah? So it's important to keep those unique for every single service and never change them once you kind of integrated, once you created an integration. Okay, so every single service kind of have config items as well. And again, they're exactly the same as the config items we see in the wizard screen. So they're just the config items that have descriptions, they can be read-only, blah, blah, this kind of stuff. Again, all we need to do from our perspective is just to tell Linux that they're there. And it will manage saving them, creating a consignment with those options already in place, things like that. So all we need to do is just to return the service list with what configuration options that service can actually have. And the properties is completely optional. You can handle it completely in code, or if you need to tell the customer about some service tags or service properties, you can just basically specify them in there. They're not really used by Linux for anything, they're just for your internal use really, and for propagating some properties of this service to the customer. So for example, in my case, I have property name label tag, and it says by Wednesday. So every time I send something, by Wednesday we'll get there. And this one is the next day service, right? So, okay, that's about it. Let's just continue with that. Just reload this again. Okay, so we now can go and add a service. So for example, fast to do next day. I'm going to leave it as possible next day, and I'm going to call it 1000 GBP insurance. Okay. The reason why I do that is because I'm going to go into the config of the service. I'm going to switch the shipping cover to up to 1000. And that's it. Okay. So Linux.net will now create a shipping service in our system called fast to next day to door, fast to door next day to £1,000. and it will be bound to fast to door next day delivery for Mars Direct courier. And every time I print a shipping label, it will get the insurance cover value 1,000, and for every consignment, it will send that information through to our shipping integration. Okay, let's finish that. Okay, so let's go ahead now and do the fun bit of actually generating the label. Let's go into open orders and just create a new order. Systems. Run phone. I'm selling a lot of those. Okay, in the services, for Windows services, we're going to choose that this order is going to go out with fast to door next day 1,000 pounds cover. For example, in the extended property here, remember we specified that we want to map the extended property fast node safe place 1 to a safe property safe place. So I'm going to go ahead and add safe place extended property on our order. Throw into the garden. Yeah, some of them do. And the property type could be anything we already care about that. Okay, so in our case, I'm just going to assign like shipping attribute to it. Because in a lot of those cases, this extended property would be automatically assigned through a script to an order or through rule engine can't do this kind of stuff. Not yet. Yes, but in some kind of automation, we'll be assigning those extended properties to it. Or sometimes customer would want to put something in there. Anyway, so yeah, we've got an order, we've got an item on the order, we've got a shipping service assigned to it. We can assign a packaging group to it as well. Okay, so the carrier is Mars Direct, as you can see there. This is the only place where a user will actually see that vendor name, and it has to be one of those just capitals and less than 60 characters long. So just to uniquely identify the courier name. In our case, it's just an integration name, so they don't actually see exactly the courier who's actually going to be delivering it. They will be able to see only the integration that will be used to print this label. All right. Right, so I've got this consignment controller. When I print a shipping label, let's go back to our documentation. It's in there. I apologize for this. There you go. Okay, when we print a shipping label, Linux.net will basically get the Linux assigned service, we'll bind it to a, we'll figure out what carrier this service is for. Then we'll take the unique identifier of the service for this carrier as defined in that list that has been shown. We'll go and look at the manifest. As I've discussed with Pete just now, I'm actually saying this wrong. It's not going to look at the manifest. I'll explain what it actually does once the courier is integrated. All of that manifest is saved on the courier integration module, right? So, for example, if the developer then went and changed the URLs, it wouldn't affect the integration that they currently already have. Those URLs are, preserved on the integration. Okay, so basically it will look at, but for our purpose, we'll just say it just looks at the manifest to look up the URL of the generate label endpoint, and we'll send that request to that URL, to that web service effectively. And the way it does this, the request that it will send, where is this? Generate label request will contain a class that is actually described in there with all those fields that will look something like that. Okay, so it will have the authorization token, all the customer details, it will have all the packages, as you can see there. It will have the unique identifier for that service. We'll have all the packages because the order in Linux.net can have a split packaging. So you can say this is one order, but it will have 3 labels. So you can assign each single item into one specific box or different packaging types, packaging groups, all this kind of stuff. So we can have multiple packages. Multiple packages obviously will produce multiple labels. And the whole consignment will have a lead tracking number. So you have, for example, one consignment, 5 boxes, and one lead tracking number that you can track all of those 5 boxes under. Extended properties of the order and the service config items. Okay, so let's go. We're going to set the breakpoint in a generate label call, and most likely when we actually go and do this, okay, it hits that. Since we're going to be debugging this operation probably going to time out. Right? Let's say we've got 30 seconds to produce a label. So you don't produce a label in 30 seconds. Linux.net will just report a timeout error, and that's it. Even if inside the code yourself you actually generated the label, try to communicate it back to Linux, and it will already reject it. Okay, the very first thing that we do is we load the profile for the integration, obviously. In that profile, we will have basically the customer sender address, so that's your return address or any other settings or properties, your API keys, whether the user is a good person that we ask them to enter in configuration, whatever you want is going to be saved in there. This is something you manage yourself within your code. Then we get the list of all the services, so that's all the available services for the customer. So for example, in some cases, when you create an integration, today they have this list of services. They can use, I don't know, DPD 24-hour delivery, something like this. And the next day, their account got penalized for something, or they said, oh, we're going to remove the service from your account, so they don't have it anymore, right? So it might be a good idea to check what services they have for, not for every call, not for generating every single label, but to keep it somewhere. So that we can refresh the list of available services for this customer all the time and make sure that we're not printing labels for the services we don't have. Okay, so we're just going to get the list of services, and this is the important bit, selected service. So in our request, let's have a look at the request itself. Okay, here's the request. So it's been sent as a JSON, and JSON got converted into this generate label request class, and in there we have a service ID. There's a service ID somewhere. Yes, there. See, this is the unique identifier that we specified in our get user services list. Okay, so if we can't find this select service, we have to throw an error, otherwise we don't know what service it is. In our shipping integration, we need the service code to be sent either to the API, or we just need it to create a routing code for whatever we Then the vendor code, whatever that might be, just a service. In my case, I'm just taking the service group, and we'll be creating just an empty response, and then we have to iterate through every single package. Okay, as already mentioned, an order or consignment can have multiple packages. Multiple packages will result in multiple labels. We have to produce a label for every single package. That's why we have this note at the beginning of it. If you're going to validate something, make sure you validate this before producing labels. Because if you start producing labels for one package, second package, and it fails on the third package, you have to fail the whole consignment. You can't say, oh, here's the label for 2 of your boxes, and the third one you can't print the label for because it's too big. Right? You have to validate the whole consignment and throw an error on the whole consignment, for all the labels. But if in case of your courier paper print sort of scenario, I lost my mobile phone somewhere. Screw that. Okay, in a paper print scenario, Imagine you printed one label, second label, charge 5 grid, charge not 5 grid, and the third label you couldn't print for some reason. So, you will throw an error, but you already generated 2 labels. So that's what I'm saying. If you can, do a validation before you print labels. Right. Next thing is we're going to take the save place value, and remember we specified that we're going to map the save place that the courier expects to an extended property of an order called save place. And Linux did that automatically, and will send into our generate label request. It will send that extended property, and it will probably say something like throw in the garden. Okay. So it mapped it and sends it across with our request automatically, so we can basically just insert that up to the label. Then it will get, we can generate the tracking number, or we can get it from the Courier API. Our lead tracking number, for example, in some couriers, they don't support multiple packages for the consignment. Quite frankly, I've only seen one courier that supports it. It's FedEx. Everyone else doesn't. So in this case, just basically allocate the first tracking number as a lead tracking number. That's it. And that's it. We have to add in our response in a package list. We have to add back all the packages that we've generated with all the labels. The important thing to remember is the sequence number thing. The sequence number field. It has to correspond to the packages that Linux will then send us, because that's how it kind of will build it up back again. Okay, so we send, here's the 3 packages. It will send package number 0, 1, 2. And you have to respond back with the labels for package number 0 and 1 and 2 in exactly the same kind of order. So that's why the sequence number is important. If you mess up those sequence numbers, or if you set them to 0, Linux will respond with an error, basically. It will not print, it will not be able to print the shipping labels to the carrier. It will save those labels, but as you produce them already, but to the user, it will actually respond with an error. You have to tell us what the height and width of the label is in inches, and provide the label data in base64 encoded PNG. Nothing else, no JPEGs, no BMPs, it has to be a PNG, converted into base64 string, even though it's going to be bloody massive, doesn't really matter, okay? And in our sample code, basically, I just got this label generator that produces an image. Just generate the label, just takes the address, order reference, and save place, and just basically draws that label. And that's it, just outputs as a stream, and that stream gets converted into an image, that image gets converted into base64, and we can output it into Linux.net. Linux.net will take this base64 image, and then we'll be able to print it into PDF, send it to a virtual printer, embed it into the invoice, do whatever it needs to do. Another thing is PDF bytes, documentation base64. This is, okay, sometimes a label requires some additional documentation to come with it. For example, custom forms, like proper big things with custom forms, some declarations, some invoices, whatever. We can generate them in the PDF format and send it to the shipping gateway as well. So, for example, when the customer prints into integrated invoices, or when they print into PDF, we'll generate the PDF, we'll generate the label, and the next page will be that documentation, and the next page will be another piece of documentation, and so on.
Is there a max size on label? So if someone creates a courier and returns a 64 gig label, is there a limit on the actual request?
Yes. The label has to be less than 500 kilobytes, which is more than enough to produce a label. Yeah. This will be determined by the, where is it? Label generator, yes, the DPI. So the higher your DPI, the bigger your label. So if you get in a massive label from your shipping courier, use the DPI and resave it back again. Unfortunately, you lose a little bit of quality, but quite frankly, 400 DPI is more than enough.
Developer's perspective. So if we get a developer creating ridiculous size API?
Huh? Limits of that will reject it and say it's too big.
Okay.
Yay. There's no. I think the label has to be 500 kilobytes, and we can increase it if there is a real reason for it. But the PDF documents has to be like 2.5 meg, not more than that. So each, and there can't be more than 20 of them. Okay. So effectively, this is just a string. It's an array of strings. Each one of them is a PDF document. Tracking number for each single package, and that's it.
We use 4G canvas or something. We use 4G canvas or something.
No, because it's pointless. By the time you explain to someone how 4G canvas gets generated, it's totally unnecessary because most of the time this functionality will be used to basically pull the label out of someone else's API, which is going to be PNG, and just basically push it back, root it back. I don't know. I mean, there might be some very brave person who will actually do the label generation themselves. Okay. Anyway, let's actually go and print this label because it timed out, obviously, because I was in the method, and 30 seconds passed. There you go. That's our label. As you can see, save place, throw in a garden is in there. And it works pretty much exactly the same as a natively integrated shipping service. So it will have your courier or your integrated labels. You can have them anywhere you want. We'll have the return labels functionality very soon. All this kind of stuff. Any functionality we add into our shipping integrations, it will be exposed through this external query integration through basically putting the right URLs in the manifest. And that's it. And when we cancel a label, at the moment we have to cancel it through shipping manifests. Okay. And view, and as you can see, every time I print a label, basically the shipping manifest gets a new record. Since last time we actually filed that. And it records basically what service we used, what consignment it is, what properties of this consignment. It records basically everything. All the properties, all of the stuff, it records on, independent from your Courier integration. So you don't have to worry about it. Windows.net will handle all that. When we cancel a label, so let's hit cancel. I forgot to put a breakpoint. Screw it. Basically, it will call the cancel label endpoint. And it will send, in the cancel label request, it will send the order ID. So basically, if you have your code here, generate label, at the moment what I've done is just I generated the label. I didn't save any information about this label internal here. Just generate label, output it. Example, because I simply haven't implemented anything for cancel label. In the cancel label call, I just respond, yeah, it's fine, I canceled it. But if I needed to implement the cancel label call, then I would have to save some information about this label. For example, the order ID, when I generated it, whether it's manifest, all this kind of stuff. And then when the cancel label call, I have to record in our database that this label has been canceled, for example, or send this request to the Courier API to say this label has been canceled. And imagine, for example, your Courier API returns some kind of consignment unique identifier, right? So we send them request, they will give us a label, and they will give us consignment unique identifier and a tracking number separately. And you can cancel the label by this consignment unique identifier. This consignment unique identifier is different to our Windows order ID. So then you have to build something in your integration where you save the order ID and the consignment unique identifier. And when somebody cancels the label, we get the order ID, and we take this order ID, match it to the consignment unique identifier, and send that to the API, to the Courier API. Right. Okay. Basically, that's about it. The only thing that we haven't really covered is the generation of the generation of the manifests. And again, it's pretty simple. So, as I said, we kind of require everyone to file manifests every 24 hours. So effectively, all the consignments that we printed in the last 24 hours, let's go and actually reprint this again, so we get a label. And refresh this. Okay, so now we've got from Mars Direct, we've got one new consignment being printed, and we need to go and file it. So when we file the consignment, a request will be sent to create manifest. And let's just have a look what it actually does, what it sends through. So file manifest, when user hits file manifest, the request will be sent in there. And in there, basically, it's entirely up to you. Some couriers don't need manifest to be created in the first place. Some couriers need a pre-advised file to be uploaded in some FTP file, FTP location, or fax generated and faxed to them, or I don't know, some monkey to write every single consignment number, put it in an envelope, and send it with Royal Mail to that carrier. You know, there's some really weird ways, like how this pre-advice has to be delivered. So you can handle this in this create manifest call. So effectively, a request will contain a authorization key and all the order IDs that are being sent. That's being basically manifested. This is the end of the day. We say we close this day, and we're going to send out all of this consignments. And at this stage, for example, you need to create a pre-advised file and upload it to FTP. You can basically go and get what you would have to do if every time you generate a label, you have to save the relevant information for this end of day manifest, end of day file somewhere in your local system. Because all we're going to send, all Linux.net is going to send in this call is just an order ID. So you have to go and find all the information for this order ID, what's been generated, what's been cancelled, all of this kind of stuff. Generate the pre-advised file, upload it. You know, it's an independent process. Or if there's nothing to manifest, you still have to respond with something. So you could just generate a random manifest reference and say, yeah, done that, manifest it. Yeah, did you see that? It was a timeout. You have 30 seconds to manifest it. So, for example, if you have to create a very large file, then you have to connect to a Courier web service that you know is very, very slow and can take longer than 30 seconds to process it. Then you have to manage it, you know, and you are restricted by 30 seconds, right? So this timeout will never going to increase. It has to be within 30 seconds. So you kind of have to create some kind of cron job on your own server, or manage it however you want. To say, okay, there's a job to upload this manifest. Then you have to generate some kind of manifest ID and upload this file independently from this process, so that your Courier integration can respond within 30 seconds, and then the job of actually uploading the file to the Courier system can happen independently or asynchronously.
What if it's in file?
Sorry?
What if it's in file?
Not a problem. Not a problem.
You could respond with an error and then just make them click it again.
No, you can't respond with an error. That's the thing. You have to respond within 30 seconds. So you respond by saying, here is the preliminary, you can respond with a reference number saying, this is the preliminary reference number. For example, you save this reference number against the job of the file upload that you're actually doing at the moment. Next thing, for example, normally when such a thing is required, like uploading pre-advised manifests, then the customer would be expected to print. Just go back and spell that again, but let it actually finish. Yeah. So the customer will be expected to print so-called end-of-day manifest So this is a specific thing to a courier, right? So yeah, so let's reopen this shipping manifests. Okay, last manifests that we filed is going to be recorded in there. As you can see, this is the ID of the last manifest. If I click that, it basically gives me the manifest reference, and it's got two options there: print manifest itself or print consignments. Print consignments is a generic thing for Linux.net, so any courier integration will print that, and it's something that the user can design themselves. Print manifest, on the other hand, is something that the courier will generate effectively for you. Right? It's something that you're supposed to hand over to the driver, or it's a sales order information or a sales order invoice for that day's shipments and things like that. So we have a method called print manifest. Effectively, this method will generate that PDF and will respond with PDF's basics before stream that. Okay? And when a customer, before the driver picks up all the buses, they have to hand this one over. So at this stage, when they try to print a manifest, if the job is still running or when it failed, you can match this manifest reference to the job. If it's still running, on the print manifest, you can throw an error saying, we're still working on that. Although you've generated the manifest, we're still uploading it. So we can't give you the manifest yet. Or when it failed, you can throw an error saying the manifest failed. And if it failed, then quite frankly, if it failed, then the developer yourselves, for example, would have to know about it somehow. So you have to create some kind of notification system for yourselves to know that this manifest failed, and you have to go and fix it somehow for the customer. That's about it.
So when we print the label, so we always, I mean, apart from the stock external property and the order external property that we define for shipping integration, we always send the same details on the order.
What do you mean?
Same object, yeah.
It's exactly the same object. Even extended properties in the order item extended properties is exactly the same object. It's just a list of things.
Mm-hmm.
The
What happens for composites? I mean, so how do you handle composites?
Composites.
gotta go. Bye bye.
Yep. Composites is fun. It's fun. Kevin knows about it.
Yeah, Kevin knows everything about composites. Ask Kevin.
For like the CN22, there was an issue, wasn't there, that you had to put a price or something?
Yes, there's always issues with.
Yeah, but the composites, you can never kind of know whether the composite is but just a combination of items under the parent, or the parent is part of the composites themselves. So,
or whether you need to declare the items, because it's, even though it's part of a package, you still have to declare it. It's very, very custom to items.
From the items perspective, we're going to send everything that is on the order. Parent, child, everything.
Do we indicate at least it's a parent-child kind of thing?
Do
we indicate at least it's a parent-child?
Just send everything.
But great.
So
the tag it's at least developers to do with it.
Double.
Sorry?
The
If you specify the weight on the parent and specify the weight on every single child, then yeah. I mean, but the package weight will be whatever it is, right? Whatever you have defined in Linux, for example. The item weight inside it, for example, on the package, because the package has got a weight, and each item has got a weight inside it. That will be doubled, basically, if you think about it. But the package weight won't be.
And the package weight is taken from the stock item?
Yes. Oh, sorry, stock item. You mean the
to be honest, I don't even remember how the package weight is calculated.
Are you talking about the packaging weight, or are you talking about the whole calculation of weight?
Well, because for example, I have a person who sells carpet, and we do split packaging, and then we have to calculate the weight for each package based on like the length of the carpet, for example. So a stock item doesn't have a weight set, but the package in the order item packaging table has the weight.
Normal packaging works out is taking into account composition. if the composite parent has a weight, it will take that.
No, but this is
First.
also for normal.
For normal,
Anything
yeah.
that's
So
split
let me
packaging.
just explain. With weights, it will take the